welcome to Deviant Delectables. I'm Gemma Blair. I know last week I promised that we'd be making garlicky burgers, but I lied. We're actually going to do that next week. This week we are going to be making James Beard's whole grain bread, kind of. I was looking at the recipe and there's a couple of things that don't really sit well with me, mainly the fact that they want us to cook it in a 2-pound coffee tin, which I don't have, so I'm going to cook it in a regular bread pan, and it should turn out just fine. The recipe also calls for 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to use 2 cups of all-purpose flour and an additional 1.5 cups of wheat flour, just because I like wheat flour, and I see no reason not to play around with it a little bit. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is going to sound really weird, but we are going to take a pot that has been filled with water, and we're going to put it on the stove to start boiling. Let's see if you can see the stove. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to let that sit, and that's how we're starting. Like, it'll make sense later, I promise, but start with this step. Get a pot of water boiling. You'll thank me later. Okay, so let's get started. First, I need a package of yeast, which I have in my fridge. I'm using Fleischmann's Active Dry Yeast. You can get it in any store. And I'm going to grab a bowl. And we're going to heat up some hot water. So the recipe says warm water. And one thing that confused me for just years and years and years of cooking and making food, specifically bread, if you want yeast to not die, the temperature of the water cannot be over 115 degrees Fahrenheit. That kills the yeast, and then it won't rise, and you're going to be sad. So make sure that it's not above 115 degrees. And you can use a thermometer to test it, or you can use your hand. Basically, if it's burning you, it's probably too hot. So I need half a cup right away. This is my half cup of water. I'll show you the bowl. All right. I'm going to pop our yeast on in there. And we're going to pour the warm water on top of it. And now we're going to let that sit aside while we do everything else so it can proof. Okay, now while your water's still hot, grab another cup of it. Alright, 1 cup of water. And we are going to mix into this. We're going to slightly beat an egg. Pop it in there. And whisk it in. No, it's just warm water. It's not hot water, so the egg isn't going to cook at all. Okay, and we are going to put this into our KitchenAid mixer. I'm just plugging in the mixer. I know you can't see me. It's okay. All right. Set this back. All right, KitchenAid. Out of the kitchen. We need 2 tablespoons of butter. I keep my butter in the freezer, so it's a little hot. I might have to tone it down a little bit. I keep my butter in the freezer because when I'm making biscuits or pie crust or really anything that isn't bread, it works a lot better when the butter is frozen. Okay, so KitchenAid mixer. We're going to put the egg and water mixture into the bottom. And I've got the dough hook attachment on. Make sure I get all of this egg out of there. Okay. And we are going to add 2 tablespoons of molasses. Never used molasses before. Kind of smells like sweet black olives, which is probably not the smell I'm supposed to be getting from it, but whatever. 1. And 2. Get all the molasses out of there, or at least enough of it. I guess it kind of reminds me of teriyaki sauce, which is probably more normal. I'm totally not going to lick it. Sorry. Not happening. 1 tablespoon of salt. Well, at least it made the molasses easier to get out of there. Surprising no one. And what else do we need? The 2 tablespoons of butter, which I'm not going to melt. I probably should, but I'm not going to. I will cut it up a little bit. Or, you know what, I'm just going to pop it in. It's fine. The blender will take care of it, she says. Alright. So now we're going to take our yeast mixture, which is kind of proofed. It looks like it's getting a little bubbly up top. And it just means that the yeast is doing what it's supposed to do. So we're going to dump that on in. And 1 cup of rolled hop cereal. I hope this is the right thing. It's the only thing my grocery store has. So we're just going to have to err on the side of it being correct and hope for the best. So we're going to measure out 1 cup. And if you go a little over, it's not the end of the world. And you are going to mix that on low. So if you're using a KitchenAid, maybe like 2. And we're not like trying to do anything intense right now. We're just kind of letting it go. Okay, so while that's doing that, I'm going to drag you back over here. And you can sit there and do that for a while. It's not going to hurt it. And we are going to mix our regular flour. So I need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, which I have here. Yay, all-purpose flour. And then 1.5 cups of the whole wheat flour, which I am using this brand here. Yay. Ooh. One and a half. Okay. And I'm just going to slightly mix it. It doesn't need to be perfect because it's all just going to go in anyway. Okay. Set that aside. All right. We are going to go back over by the blender. Let's turn it off. Face it over. Face you over. Okay. Lift it up. Or, crank it up, whatever kind of KitchenAid you have. And we are going to put 2.5 cups in right away. So, here's one. Here's 2. And there's a half. Now, when you turn this on, make sure it's locked and start it on low because otherwise the flour is going to fly everywhere. Once you feel like it's, mixed in pretty well, let's see if I can get a better feel for that. There you go, you can kind of see it. Once you feel like it's starting to mix in a little bit, go ahead and turn it up one more. And if you think you need to help it out a little bit by scraping the sides with the spatula, you can, but we're going to wait a little bit because it'll get there. Now I'm going to turn it up again, and it starts pulling from the sides on its own. It's such a pretty color. It's probably the molasses. And I don't know if you can see it, but the little butter ball is still in there, but it's getting smaller. It's mixing in. Okay, so we're going to turn it back off. Lift up the hook. It's still really doughy, which is fine because now we're going to add the rest of the flour. And it doesn't specifically say why we're doing it in increments like this, but I'll assume that there's a really good scientific reason that I'm not aware of. Okay. And again, lock it and set it on low until you feel like it's mixed in enough to turn it up. Now the dough's getting a little hard, so we're just going to turn it up again. There we go. Now it's moving. And once I feel like it's not going to blow out, I'll turn it up some more, and we'll let it knead for about, I don't know, anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes, just until I feel like it's a comprehensive dough. I'm going to turn it off, and there we go. Shove that back down there. Now I can see the chunks of oats in there, and it looks amazing. This is a stubborn dough ball. Alright. Oh yeah, that is perfect. I can touch it. It's a little sticky, so I might add a little bit more flour. I'm going to add flour to a work surface. And then I'll bring you back over so you can see what I do. And I'm just using all-purpose flour for the work surface. Grab the dough and pop it on over. Lightly flour the top of it. And knead it a little bit. This dough has a really great feel to it. It's chunky, which is nice. I like chunky bread. These oats are going to cook right on into it. Okay. And like I said, the dough is not too sticky, so like I don't really need to do a whole lot with it. Okay. I'm just going to form it into a ball. And then I'm going to take the same bowl that I just stirred it in. So I'm grabbing the bowl that I just stirred it in. And I'm going to spray it with a little cooking spray. Now the inside of my bowl isn't terribly messy. It got most of the dough up off of it. If you have a whole lot left, either use a different bowl or clean it up. So spray it. Pop the dough ball back in. And we're going to cover it with plastic wrap. Let's get this so you can see what we're doing. There we go. No, it doesn't need to be airtight. It just needs to be covered. Okay? Now, for the fun part. You remember that boiling water we have? We're going to put it into our oven, which is not on. Okay? The oven's not on. So we're going to take the bread. We're going to put it in here. You can tell the oven's not on because I'm grabbing the oven rack. Put the dough in there, and put the boiling water in there. Shut it, and we're going to let it rise for about an hour or until it's doubled in size. So I will check back with you in an hour, and we'll be back. So it's been an hour, and we are going to take the bread out of the oven, and I know it's not like really in the oven, it's just rising, but let's go take a look at it. Oh wow. It is definitely doubled in size. If you remember what it looked like while it was in there, it did not come up that high. So, put the rack back. We're going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Okay, so I know I didn't really explain why we put the boiling water in the oven with the bread, but honestly, I used to make bread all the time and it would never rise and it would turn out terribly and I'd be really sad and I'd have this thick, dense bread. And then I watched Good Eats and Alton Brown was like, hey, just shove a pot of boiling water in there and it'll help it out. And lo and behold, it did, and I have now made perfect bread every time since then. So, we are going to punch it down. I suppose I should there. Punch, 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 punch. And pull it out. Oh, so pretty. And I've got a loaf pan already. I'm going to spray it down. And I've got a second tiny little loaf pan that I want to make because I can. Because I want to test a theory. So I'm going to take, I don't know, like a lump off. And I'm going to make it vaguely loaf shape and pop it in the little one. And I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to take the bulk of this, make it vaguely loaf shaped. You know, I'm going to take a little bit more off of this for the mini loaf. And pop it on in the other hand. And it's going to look like that. It'll rise a little more when we put it in the oven. Add this to the mini loaf. Put it back in. Okay, so one thing I want to try with the baby loaf is I still have a whole bunch of these rolled oats left. And I'm going to gently just sprinkle some over the top and hope that they bake in. Push them down a little bit. I just want to try it. I mean, you know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And hey, mini loaf. Now, the mini loaf isn't going to take as long to cook, so I'll have to check it a little sooner than I would check the big loaf. Put that aside. And we're going to let the oven preheat for, I don't know, 5 minutes, so it's actually heated up. Let's do this so you can see the face. So we're going to let the oven preheat to 350. Then we're going to pop this in. It's going to be just fine while you're waiting for your oven to preheat. You can let it, and it'll rise a little bit more. And then once your oven's preheated, just pop it into the oven for an hour and 10 minutes. So I will check back with you in an hour and 10 minutes, and hopefully we'll have some bread. All right, see you in a bit. All right, well, there's still 20 minutes left on the timer, but it smells done, it looks done, and it kind of feels hard. So I'm going to take it out of the oven. James Beard might light on this one, which is fine, it happens. So we're going to take it on out. Let's see if you can get the oven in here. There we go. And it's totally done. If you can hear it. Okay, so we're going to let it rest. I'll move it on over to the bread rack, which, let's see. Yep, see, there's the mini loaf chilling out. I'm going to try that in a little bit. And then as soon as that bread is cooled down a little bit more, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, I will come back and make a sandwich so you can see if the bread is sandwich appropriate. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so the bread has been cooling for a little while, and now we're going to do what I have wanted to do since making it. We're going to make a sandwich. It doesn't matter, like, what I'm putting on the sandwich, because it's all store-bought anyway, but, you know, you get to watch me make it and eat it so we can see how the bread tastes. Mini loaf. Okay, so this is all that's left of the mini loaf, because I was hungry, and it's really good. You can see inside here, it's like the perfect way bread's supposed to be. It's spongy and it's soft and the crust is good. Perfect. So I'm a little concerned about the actual loaf, but we'll check it out. Okay. So, ooh, still warm. This is our big girl loaf. It's been cooling for a little while. I'm going to cut off one of the ends. Because I don't eat heels for sandwiches. Oh, it's still really good. Okay. Now I'm going to cut off 2 slices. I don't know, decently thick ones, I guess. She says totally butchering it. Okay, hold on, I'm going to try that again. I don't normally make sandwiches with bread like this. I normally just eat them with some butter, which is how I was totally doing the mini loaf. Okay, 1 piece of sandwich bread. Get my plate out. The top is like really crusty and the inside is really moist. So it's really good bread. Okay, and there's the second slice. Well, third technically, but who's keeping track, right? Okay. Got some tomato. I'm just going to cut the butt off. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to put a little bit of mayonnaise on because I like mayonnaise. Spread it around. Spread it around. Put my tomato on. I've got this lovely Munster cheese because there is no better cheese in this universe. It's a fact, not an opinion. I've got my turkey. And my favorite, a little bit of avocado. Slice. So for avocado, I'm just slicing it down in the shell. Not going too deep so I don't cut my hand and go through it. Then I'm going to take a spoon that's, a decent sized spoon. Dig in, follow it, and my slices are going to pop right out. And I've got some avocado on there. Top it with the second piece of bread. And just like that, we've got a tasty, delicious sandwich. All right, let's try this. You ready? I might have made it too big. All right. Woo! It's perfect. Like, actually perfect. I'm so happy right now. So, the loaf turned out about sandwich size, and it's... Sorry, still chewing. It's got that perfectly thick crust that's still crunchy, and the inside is still soft enough to make it work. So, that is how we did our whole grain bread. I would recommend, like I said, when you make it, maybe take it out of the oven 20 minutes before James Beard recommends, because the hour and 10 minutes just seemed a bit excessive. So, that's all we've got for today. Next week, I promise we'll make garlicky burgers. And I will see you next week. Bye, guys.